भगवान ना करे कम बारिश भी होती है तो भी लोगों को ज्यादा असुविधा ना हो.
Monsoon rainfall is likely to be 88% of the normal.
It's raining in Delhi, it's raining in Patna, it's raining in Chhattisgarh.
The rain gods may not smile this year. The government slashes its monsoon forecast, expects deficient rainfall this year against its earlier forecast of below normal rains, but private weather forecaster SkyMet sticks to its forecast of a normal monsoon.
जो तैयारियां हैं ये लगातार चल रही है और पिछला अनुभव है तो निश्चित रूप से हम इसका सामना करेंगे और इस पर विजय प्राप्त करेंगे.
The contingency plan is in place to tackle scanty rainfall, says Agriculture Minister Radha Mohan Singh, assures that centre has enough buffer stock and there's no need to rely on imports. That's an exclusive.
We do feel that the economy is still below potential.
The RBI cuts the repo by 25 basis points but paints a grim picture for the economy, hikes its inflation forecast, cuts the GDP forecast for this fiscal, also questions the GDP data. Your EMI is set to get cheaper. Banks pay heed to the governor's call on easing interest rates. SBI cuts base rates by 15 basis points. A slew of other banks also follow suit. Deficient monsoon forecast and RBI's hawkish commentary serves as a double whammy for Dalal Street. The Sensex tanks over 650 points. The Nifty nosedives 200 points as it nears the 8,200 mark. Bank stocks take a beating.
We have an open mind. We look at market conditions. We look at the requirements of the FISC. And I think in the overall context, we have to maximize the value for the government of India.
The government will bring its stake in Coal India down to 75%. The timing will be decided by the Finance Minister, says Coal and Power Minister Piyush Goyal. Gives a stern warning to companies that won coal blocks in the recent auction. Says the decision to cap fixed costs will not change and companies cannot pass on these costs to consumers. Trouble for Nestle. Maggi fails the food safety test in Delhi. It's taken off shelves in government stores in Kerala, but Goa follows Maharashtra and Karnataka governments to give an initial clean chit.
Let me give you a cricketing analogy.
Yes.
It's a team needs 2 points to win in a cricket match. But if it rains, you can't have a match.
The land bill is not going anywhere, says Derek O'Brien of the Trinamool Congress and a member of the select panel of the land bill. Says 130 parliamentarians are against the proposed changes by the government. Holds out hope for the GST, says 80% chance the bill could be passed in the upcoming monsoon session. The government announces a major reshuffle of bureaucrats. 17 ministries get new secretaries. Rita Teotia will be the new Commerce Secretary, Pradeep Kumar Pujari the new Power Secretary, and Rajiv Chaubey will be the new Aviation Secretary.
We are expecting onset over Kerala to be around 5th, but even that will be very weak type of onset. Whatever technology we have, we see that June and July look okay. I can see as far as June 15th so far, and those look okay. I don't see any prolonged dry periods.
A lot is going to depend on the monsoons, and if you have bad monsoons, then you could see this getting extended to maybe another quarter or two. That is the earnings downgrades.
Clearly the biggest uncertainty at this point is the outturn of the monsoon, but also the policy reaction.
From foreign investors to farmers, everyone has an eye on the sky. The Met Department has predicted that rainfall will now be deficient
But private weather forecaster SkyMet is predicting to a normal monsoon. That face-off is coming up for you in just a bit on India Business Hour. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us. The monsoon scare and a hawkish RBI governor sent investors on the loudspeed running for cover. All of that and much more coming up for you on the next 60 minutes. Hi, Nandara.
Good evening, Shireen. For the sake of the Indian economy, let's just hope that SkyMet is wrong and the IMD is incorrect.
Well, that's right. You mean
SkyMet is right and IMD is wrong.
Even the government would want that the private weather forecaster gets it right. But let's get things started with the day's trading action. It's been a disastrous day on the Lal Street. And as I was saying, the bulls received not one but two knockout blows and they never recovered. The Sensex tanking over 650 points to edge closer to that 27,000 mark. The Nifty was down nearly 200 points today and losses accelerated as that graph tells you towards the close of trade. Bank stocks were under severe pressure with the Bank Nifty down by about 3%. Now all of this because of the Reserve Bank's decision to put out a hawkish commentary. The RBI cut rates today as was widely hoped, but the policy itself has brought no joy, and that's because the central bank's message on the economy is grim. It says inflation will rise higher than its previous forecast and growth will be lower than the earlier forecast. No wonder all the markets, stocks, bonds and rupee fell today. Here are the highlights of the credit policy.
The RBI is not a cheerleader.
Yes, there was no cheer for the economy or for the markets, even though the governor cut rates. That's because the governor, arguably the most credible voice on the economy, had some grim forecasts. That inflation will rise to 6% by January 2016, up from 5.8% forecast earlier, and that growth will be lower at 7.6% rather than 7.8%.
It is a sort of discrepancy in the eyes of the world why we still think the economy needs rate cuts when it's growing at 7.5%. Investment is still very tepid. We haven't seen a strong pickup. The corporate results have been quite weak also, suggesting that final demand is yet to pick up strongly.
Rajan's non-monetary policy messages to the government were more important. That it should not confuse minimum support prices with farmer welfare, since MSP impacts only 2 crops and 4-5 states.
Broader support across commodities and across India would ensure that the decisions in terms of growing would be made in a more effective way. If you support only a narrow set of commodities and it's only in a few states, then those states tend to overproduce that commodity while other states don't get the benefit, and it may be that you're skewing production in a certain way that doesn't respond to price signals.
The other message to the government was that it cannot revive the economy with sick banks. In 2 places in the statement, the governor has exhorted the government to capitalize public sector banks. To bankers, his message was that it is time they cut lending rates further.
I have no doubt that over time, competition will play a role. Banks will have to figure out, do they keep their margins right now and lose market share, or do they cut their margins and keep market share? That's an age-old problem that they will have to address.
The Reserve Bank has increased the inflation forecast and given a rate cut. Many would say that itself is a contradiction. Having raised the inflation forecast by 20 basis points, it is impossible that the Reserve Bank will give any further rate cuts. So further easing is out of the window. Any goodies are not coming from the Reserve Bank. They are coming at best from the gods in the form of rains or from the government in the form of better supply management and better management of food prices. The Reserve Bank is no cheerleader, said the governor. He meant every word of it. In Mumbai, with Ritu Singh and Manasvi Gilani, Lata Venkatesh.
So it doesn't look like the Reserve Bank is going to be cutting rates for the rest of this calendar year. But once again, after today cutting the rates, the Reserve Bank governor did do some plain speaking with the bankers, and this time the bankers have agreed to prepare for lower EMIs as well as lower returns on your savings. Manasvi Gilani and Ritu Singh have that story.
For some time now, Governor Rajan has been insisting that his rate cuts are transmitted by bankers. And with the latest rate cuts came a similar pitch to bankers.
If I look at bank fixed deposits, which I invest in, because that's the only thing I can invest in, the rate has come down from 9% to 8%, 100 basis point cut in fixed deposits. So over time, this has to be passed through to the lending side.
This personal message appears to have touched a chord. The biggest banker, State Bank of India, took the lead and cut base rate by 15 basis points to 9.7% from 9.85%. Even smaller banks like Punjab and Sindh Bank and Dena Bank cut base rates by 25 basis points, bringing it down to 10%. Allahabad Bank cut lending rate by 30 basis points to 9.95%.
The current quarter the effect will be only for 20 days. But as we go forward, I think we have excess investment in the form of SLR. As and when they move to loans, I think my net interest margins will go up. So I'll be able to make up whatever I lose.
ICICI Shilpa Kumar and Bank of Baroda's Ranjan Dhawan both agree that there is room for banks to cut both lending and deposit rates further.
Going forward, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have to see where the market finally settles. We are definitely into an easing cycle. Demand for credit remains weak. We'll watch the market for 2 or 3 weeks. Going forward, I do believe that there would be some rate cuts in store for us.
Important point is that base rates are a combination of not just wholesale deposit rates but also retail rates across a spectrum of products. And there indeed, like many other people have said earlier, the small savings rate will play some factor in how far down those rates can go.
But the governor's bigger service to PSU banks was his strong message to the government that it must infuse more capital into government banks. In Mumbai with Ritu Singh, Manasvi Gilani.
Some banks already cutting the base rates. Getting more reactions now. The government has welcomed the rate cut from the Reserve Bank. The Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramanian said the cut is consistent with declining inflation. Listen in.
This is the third in a series of welcome rate cuts by the Reserve Bank of India. These cuts are consistent with trends in the economy, including strongly declining inflation, contained current account deficits, and ongoing strong fiscal discipline. The government and the RBI agreed that these cuts signify that the economy needs policy support as economic growth is recovering while the external environment remains weak. The government and the RBI will work together to ensure that the macro economy remains strong while investment and growth are accelerated toward their potential.
Well, that's not block welcoming the 25 basis point rate cut. Governor Rajan may have given the street what it wanted in the form of a rate cut, but brokerages are more concerned with his hawkish stance on any further cuts. Deutsche Bank says the governor has clearly tossed the ball in the government's court when it comes to reviving the investment cycle, addressing supply bottlenecks, and generally slamming the brakes on inflation. However, Deutsche Bank observes that in no way has the Reserve Bank slammed the door on further rate cuts, so one could expect more accommodation should the government action on food management be proactive, or there are positive surprises on the progress of the monsoon. Let's talk about Citibank. Its reading is along similar lines. It says proactive food management policies from the government and benign global prices may mitigate some of the risks from a weak monsoon, and so a further 25-point basis cut before the end of this financial year could still come through. So that's Deutsche Bank and Citi. Nantara, what about the others?
Well, Namura Shireen is not so certain. It agrees the Reserve Bank has not slammed the doors on further rate cuts should disinflation actually set in. However, it does point out that growth is in the initial stages of a business cycle recovery, and inflation appears to be stabilizing around 5 to 5.5%, and inflation expectations are still elevated. So another round of rate cuts before the end of FY16 may not really materialize. Barclays, it's also thinking along these lines. Barclays argues that the tone of the Reserve Bank's commentary was more cautious in the previous policy statement in April, and considering that the central bank has delivered rate cuts of a cumulative 75 basis points in less than 5 months, hoping for any further easing may be a bit of a stretch.
Well, this was the big worry that the RBI governor spoke about today. He said it's the big uncertainty staring the central bank as well as the government. The big story this evening, the rain gods may not be smiling this year. The government has slashed its monsoon forecast. The government had earlier projected that India could receive rains below 93% of the long period average. In other words, the monsoon would have been below normal. But now the forecast has been slashed to 88%, which means that the rainfall will actually be deficient. Now, just to put things in perspective, last year India received rainfall that was 12% below normal, and this meant that agricultural growth dwindled to just 0.2%. Not just that, unseasonal rains have wreaked havoc in the first 3 months of this year, and that has led to the agri GDP contracting by 1%. 1.4%. The government knows only too well about the dire consequences of a deficient monsoon. Announcing the forecast, Minister for Earth Sciences Harsh Vardhan said, "Let's pray to the God that this revised forecast does not come true."
In fact, Shireen, he said that the government machine, it is on tenterhooks, and went on to say this is a climate change that is actually taking place. After all, just last year, India found itself in a drought-like situation. It says while it does have a contingency plan in place, it is also hoping for some divine intervention.
हमारी जो डिपार्टमेंट की कैलकुलेशन के हिसाब से इस वर्ष मॉनसून के 88% प्लस माइनस 4% होने की संभावना है और यह थोड़ा एक प्रकार से दुखद भी है कि जो 2 महीने पहले हमारी संभावना थी उससे थोड़ा सा मॉनसून के रेनफॉल के कम होने की संभावना की हम आज बात कर रहे हैं। भगवान ना करे कम बारिश भी होती है तो भी लोगों को ज्यादा असुविधा ना हो, उनके जनजीवन पर ज्यादा दुष्प्रभाव ना पड़े।
जो कंटीजेंसी प्लान होते हैं 580 जिलों का हमने पहले बनाया था, उसको फिर नए सिरे से उस पर विचार किया है और जिलों को मुहैया कराया है और फिर इस महीने के अंत तक और उसमें क्या कर सकते हैं उसको एडिशन करेंगे। और जो पूर्वोत्तर के 30 जिले हैं उनमें भी उनके लिए भी हम कंटीजेंसी प्लान भेज रहे हैं और राज्यों के अधिकारियों के साथ 2 बार हमने यहां बैठक की है और हमारे अधिकारी भी राज्यों में जाकर बैठक किए हैं। आईसीआर के जो कृषि वैज्ञानिक है वो भी राज्यों के अंदर जाकर राज्य सरकारों के साथ बैठक की है। पिछले बार भी जब इतनी खराब स्थिति थी तो मात्र 2% कम बुआई हुई थी, 3% का फसल का उत्पादन कम हुआ था, लेकिन खाद और संबंधित जो क्षेत्र है, कृषि और संबंधित क्षेत्र है, अन्य क्षेत्रों में हम काफी बढ़ोतरी हुई थी और अनाज के उत्पादन में 3% की कमी हुई थी। तो हमारे पास बफर स्टॉक है, इसलिए ये चिंता का हमारा विषय नहीं है।
That's the Agriculture Minister Radha Mohan Singh in an exclusive conversation with CNBC TV 18's Malvika Jain, saying that there is no need to import food stock just yet. We have enough buffer stock, saying the contingency plan has been put in place and there is no need to press the panic button just yet. On its part, the Met Department says that El Nino conditions have set in or continue to have strengthened over the last few days, and that will hurt the second half of the monsoon season. But private weather forecaster SkyMet continues to maintain that we will see a normal monsoon. It says it has no data pointing to any deficiency just as of now. Here's an excerpt of the conversation that I had with Jatin Singh, the CEO of SkyMet, and DS Pai, the director of the Indian Met Department, earlier today. I began by asking Mr. Pai for the reason behind the downgrade by the Met Department from below normal monsoon to a deficient monsoon.
So the main reason for downgrading is the El Nino conditions are becoming strengthening, and the forecasts are also showing that during monsoon season El Nino conditions to become moderate to strong. And in addition to that, there is also mid-latitude activities which are also hindering the monsoon to.
Okay, you're saying the El Nino conditions have worsened and hence you have been forced to downgrade your forecast. Let's go across to Jatin Singh of SkyMet. Jatin, you know, we had this conversation just a couple of days ago. I think it was Thursday, if my memory serves me right. And you said you're still sticking to the SkyMet forecast of this being a normal monsoon. In light of what the IMD has today forecasted, are you changing your mind at all?
Not at all. We're sticking to 102. We stand strong.
You're still sticking to 102, despite what the IMD is saying that the El Nino conditions have worsened, that they're now down to 88%. You're still saying 102 is what you anticipate?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you explain this divergence, Jatin? I asked you this question on Thursday. I'm asking this question again in the context of this downward revision by the IMD.
See, I don't think of this as a contest. Let this be differing academic opinion. Okay, as I said, one is the statistical way of looking at that. You really don't get back-to-back droughts. There have been 3 instances: 04, 05, 65, 66, 85, 86, 87. 2014 was a drought, and 88%. I don't know why the word deficient is being used as a perversion of a statistic. It is actually a forecast for drought. That is one reason. Second, in a back-to-back El Nino, and this is an El Nino, this El Nino that was established in September in the region 3.4, the Central Pacific, that we're more sensitive to. It's been there since September, and it was there in June also, but it kept on getting aborted, so you didn't get one consecutive quarter. So statistically, that is also not supported. The third, one story that I think you'll start hearing in about a month's time is that there is an Indian Ocean dipole. That is, it seems, and this is our theory, that this looks like 1997, when the Indian Ocean was able to successfully insulate us from the El Nino. So these are the 3 points.
Okay, so those
Indian
are the
Ocean,
3 points. Why you continue to maintain 102 and you're not changing your forecast, Mr. Pai?
Our models and everything is still sticking. You know, I haven't. See, if I have enough data for whatever work, and we've been talking for a couple of years, I would change. Last year we downgraded from 94 to 91 and then to a drought. But so far, and mind you, this is only the second day of June, second day of monsoon. This is a 120-day event. And right now, I don't. Maybe they do, but I don't have enough data or experience, or nothing tells me that I should downgrade this forecast so far.
Okay, Mr. Pai, how would you respond to the comments that are coming in from SkyMet? There, SkyMet continues to hold its forecast of 102, which is clearly even better than what your earlier forecast was, and they're sticking to that. They're saying that the El Nino conditions at this point in time do not suggest a downward revision for the SkyMet forecast, and they also believe that perhaps we could be insulated because of the phenomena that's developing in the Indian Ocean. How would you respond to those comments, sir?
See, actually, I have no very specific comment, only to say that both these groups are using different methods. So it is possible two models can have two forecasts, so it's welcome. So,
but this is a very
for them.
It's a very divergent forecast, sir. You're now talking about deficiency. You're talking about deficiency. SkyMet is talking about a normal monsoon.
So it is possible. They are both using different type of methods and models. So both are not using the same type of model. So it is possible. But to support what IMD has forecasted, the El Nino conditions, as you see, has been already established. So El Nino is going to impact from very beginning of the season itself. And we have seen that El Nino years, particularly the second half of the season, gets much worse. So we expect that, as we predicted, this year will be a deficient year. And coming to IOD, most of our models are indicating that will be a neutral conditions. And IOD don't have really speaking, much impact, particularly on the monsoon. In some years when IOD has been very strong, like 97, it had actually insulated, as he said correctly, the El Nino. But this year, most of the models are indicating that to be neutral.
Okay. Hold on to that thought. Let me get Jatin Singh on that. Jatin, you said that you believe that the Indian Ocean could actually insulate us. The Indian Met Department is saying that this is not, anywhere close to what we saw in 1997, and hence the Indian Ocean phenomena that you were talking about is unlikely to come to our rescue. Also suggesting that the second half of the El Nino is perhaps going to bear a much worse situation for the monsoon forecast, which is what the Met Department is going with, and that seems to explain the divergence according to the IMD.
Yeah, Shireen, you need to we all need to sit this one out. You see, I mean, if you look at the IRI forecast, if you look at any of the freely available forecasts of the IOD, it says that it is warming. Now, it is supposed to warm between June to August. It might quicken, it might not. Now, we really don't know. It's true, even I am a convert and a new acolyte to the whole IOD, that I agree. But it seems in years like this, it might have an influence, and whatever technology we have, we see that June and July look okay. I can see as far as June 15th so far, and those look okay. I don't see any prolonged dry periods. So let's see. I think by July 15th we will know which way this is exactly going to swing. But as I said, you really need it to play out, then I guess we will both learn a lot of things over the next 4 months.
Yes, we will. But at this point in time, I can tell you, Jatin Singh, there are many more people rooting for your camp to be successful on this particular forecast than Mr. Pai's. But Mr. Pai, you know, what Jatin was saying, that they don't really, at this point in time, see any long dry spells, at least not until the 15th of June. Are you in agreement with that forecast? Is that what your model is showing you as well? And again, on the
Shireen, until the 15th of July. Up until now, the 15th of July. I don't see any.
That's right, 15th of July. That's right. If you can comment on that, Mr. Pai, and also I think at least both of you are in agreement as far as the onset of the monsoon itself, which is tentatively between the 6th and the 9th of June. Mr. Pai, let me start with you.
Yeah, we are expecting actually. Yeah, we are expecting onset over Kerala to be around 5th. But even that will be very weak type of onset for around 3 or 4 days. Monsoon may be active, but then there will be a hiatus of about 4 days. Then only further progress can be observed. As a whole, we are seeing our extended forecasts are showing June to be not so good. Perhaps it may not be as bad as last year, but it is likely to be less than 100%. So even July forecast as we have given, it is 90%. So overall we see that its El Nino impact will be almost in all the 4 months.
Well, let's just hope for the sake of the Indian economy that the SkyMet is right and IMD is wrong. But the deficiency in monsoon will not hit the power sector hard. That's the word coming in from the Coal and Power Minister Piyush Goyal, who rationalizes the government will offset the lag in hydropower supply with more coal-based power. We will get you more from Goyal a little later. But first, here's his reaction to the Met Department's monsoon forecast.
Hydropower will certainly get affected, and it did get affected last year also. But if you recall, last year in the June, July, August period, monsoon period, when hydel was down, coal had bumped up its production to nearly 13.5% growth. And we were able to ensure that throughout the country, there were no power shortages or outages. Even this year, we have in fact provided far more proactively. There is adequate coal at every thermal power plant.